Hello, just a pre-video editor's note. I know many of you on the channel probably don't really know Fire Emblem, so I've included a shortish document in the description on the basics of the game, so hopefully you can have a better time following along. Anyways, enjoy the first part, everyone. So, Fire Emblem Three Houses is a pretty fun game. Have a decent amount of playtime, and something I've always liked doing in my playthroughs is reclassing a few of my units into something silly to spice things up a bit, since every unit can be almost anything if you tried hard enough. But what if every unit had a silly build? I randomized using a wheel to determine the class progression of every unit, at least within reason, and I think I was pretty generous on the definition of within reason, as we'll see when we look over each unit. I'll be playing on maddening difficulty and classic mode, and this is how it went. After watching an End of War stabbing session, we say hello to our local mystery lolly, and give her our personal information and social security details. Gender, male, name, excavate, birthday, December 4th, you know, the important stuff. And we say hi to our Fire Emblem dad, run into 3 characters that happen to appear on the game's cover, so they're sort of significant, and get involved with fighting off some bandits. The prologue tutorial map is the same as ever, so this is a good time to establish some ground rules of the run. First off, game-breaking exploits are off the table. This includes stuff like the Infinite Month glitch, or getting the Viscam weapon via online, not that I'm using online anyways. Second, I cannot deviate from the classes chosen, so I can't switch classes and master them for a specific skill. Their obtainable skills from classes are locked in from the start. Third, I am not allowed to promote my units unless their previous class tier is mastered. This will force me to use what I've been stuck with just to keep things a bit interesting. And lastly, I am using DLC content, but I will not use the stat boosters provided at the start, and will not be using the Chalice of Beginnings cause that's a bit overpowered with that infinite counterattack range. Oh, also, we're not using New Game Plus for obvious reasons. Back to the prologue map, we bop the first enemy, miss with Edelgard, move to the trees, miss with Edelgard, move to the other set of trees, miss with Edelgard, get a bad level up on Excavate, miss a 93% hit chance with Excavate, land a critical hit with Edelgard, and take down the bandit boss to end the map. Pretty good outcome, I think. On to Chapter 1. We are invited to take a visit to the Garreg Mach Monastery and are overseen by the Archbishop on a platform with the structural integrity that rivals modern architecture. Hired as a professor of the Knights Academy, we meet the other students hanging around such as Simpy Edgelord, the Philanderer, I fear social interaction, I am not a child angry face, and the best nickname I have, Ferdinand von Aegir. Afterwards, I finally decide on the house we'll be sticking with for the rest of the game, and I did put up a poll a while ago on what route we take, and so, we're going with the Black Eagles on the Crimson Flower route. The map for Chapter 1 is a mock battle between the 3 houses, and is one of 2 maps in the entire game that allows your units to go down without losing them permanently. Though a tactical option is to sack units, doing that will be far from ideal because we're going to need every bit of firepower we can muster. Remember the random class progression stuff I mentioned earlier? I can start going over them, at least for the 5 deployed for this map. Starting with our protagonist, Excavate, is not too much different from what he is in a regular playthrough. Only thing that really changes is instead of being sword focused, it's light magic instead with the Holy Knight class stuck at the end. This also makes Excavate our primary source of healing because of the bonuses provided by the Priest and Bishop classes. Edelgard is pretty interesting because she'll grow into a magic unit and actually, despite being seen as this tough axe lord, has access to some pretty interesting lineup of available spells. Luna ignores magic resistance, and Hades is just a powerful spell in general. On top of that, she's got a 45% magic growth, which is very usable. It is actually quite fortunate that Ferdinand von Aegir ended up in the class line that he did, because of the synergy between his personal skill and those class skills granting a lot of dodge in total. Ferdinand von Aegir is going to hit reliably and eventually become a dodge tank. Hopefully. You never know on maddening difficulty. Caspar managed to luck out with his randomized classes, other than that Fortress Knight there. He can use axes, something he's already innately good at with his learnable combat arts to match. I'm particularly interested in Exhaustive Strike, sacrificing all of the durability of the current weapon for extra damage, which is something we might have to rely on for firepower due to the gang not having a lot of it overall. Speaking of, there's good news and bad news for Dorothea. The good news is that she becomes the Mortal Savant class in the late to end game, and therefore can use spells like her 3-10 range Meteor and the powerful Agnia's Arrow. The bad news is that she is unable to use those spells for most of the game because she has been given the Sword class line. Overall, I think these 5 units have a lot of potential. So, how did we clear Chapter 1? Immediately, Lorenz, Ignatz, and Ashe charges at us. and I move the squad to the left side of the map so I can take them on one by one. Then Caspar gets a lucky crit at a convenient time, and knowing that any of my units can survive one round with Ignatz, I let him attack Dorothea and hit him down, then doing the same thing to Ashe. Next is the problem of Hilda and Claude just sitting in the trees, and if you're wondering, if you approach to the right side, everyone will start charging at you, which is more or less a guaranteed defeat. We do the usual strategy of taking each enemy on one by one, but we only have enough power to dispatch Hilda. So with a bit of body blocking, Claude doesn't one-round one of my units and nearly offs Edelgard instead. Oh, also Excavate got another questionable level up, so lucky me. After we defeat Claude, the map gets a lot easier because there's a cool trick you can do here. Normally, by eliminating all the Golden Deer members, the rest of the blue lines on the right side will start charging at you. But what you can do is by not taking down Manuela, you can lure each individual enemy one by one and take them down that way. As a bonus, when Manuela is out of Nosferatu uses, she can no longer attack, and I use this chance to train up Dorothea's sword skill a bit by continuously whacking for 0 damage. The game does have a 99 turn limit, so we can't do this forever. Not that I'm going to do this sort of skill grind often, but I thought it was a cool thing to show off. Once I grew bored of mashing Dorothea at Manuela, I take on Dimitri, who can one-round everyone except Excavate. After sacrificing Caspar for enough damage, I clean up the prince and finish the map with a turn count of 69, because we're mature like that.